He was the face of courtroom justice on television, the unshakable Perry Mason, the brilliant and composed legal mind millions trusted. But behind Raymond Burr's stoic gaze and thunderous voice was a man carrying secrets, scars, and a deep-rooted bitterness towards certain Hollywood stars. 7 actors, in particular, sparked something more than rivalry, pure, unfiltered hatred. Before fame found him, Raymond Burr lived a life marked by struggle, sacrifice, and silence. Born in British Columbia in 1917, he was barely a boy when his world fell apart. After his parents' painful divorce, Burr moved to California with his mother and quickly took on the burden of being a provider, working odd jobs to help keep his family afloat. But even as he rose through the ranks of radio, stage, and film, Burr never forgot those who tried to humiliate, undermine, or manipulate him, and he never forgave them either. In this video, we're peeling back the carefully crafted image of Raymond Burr to reveal the 7 actors he despised the most, and the chilling reasons why. The early hardships Raymond Burr faced didn't break him, they forged a quiet, formidable resilience that would define not just his life, but the powerful characters he portrayed on screen. Before the spotlight ever touched him, Burr lived many lives, a rugged ranch hand, a door-to-door photo salesman, and a naval serviceman during World War II. Though parts of his military record remain clouded in mystery, one truth was clear: his heart belonged to the stage. Beneath the uniform and behind the salesman's smile was a man yearning to perform, to channel his pain, strength, and complexity into something larger than life. That chance came when Burr stepped into the legendary halls of the Pasadena Playhouse, a breeding ground for Hollywood's next elite. There, his natural talent couldn't be ignored. He dominated the stage, then radio, and soon, the silver screen. By the late 1940s and into the 50s, Burr had become a commanding presence in the shadows of film noir and crime dramas. He didn't just play villains and tough men, he became them. Each role pulsed with the weight of a man who had lived 1,000 lives before ever stepping in front of the camera. In Hollywood's golden age, Raymond Burr carved his name into legend by embodying characters that walked the razor's edge between authority and danger. With his towering frame and piercing gaze, he didn't just play villains, he became the shadow in the room. His unforgettable role as the menacing Lars Thorwald in Hitchcock's Rear Window, 1954, still haunts viewers to this day. And in A Place in the Sun, 1951, opposite Montgomery Clift, Burr brought a quiet volatility that couldn't be ignored. He had a gift, not just for playing dark roles, but for injecting them with depth, with tragedy, with truth. But it was in 1957 that Burr stepped into immortality. Cast as the unshakable Perry Mason, he transformed courtroom television forever. With calm authority and relentless pursuit of justice, Burr's Mason wasn't just a lawyer, he was a symbol of righteousness in a murky world. Week after week, he stood for truth, cutting through lies with surgical precision. The show didn't just entertain, it inspired. Over 9 groundbreaking seasons, Burr earned 2 Primetime Emmy Awards and solidified his place as one of television's greatest icons. His voice, his stare, his unwavering moral compass, Perry Mason wasn't just a character. He was a force. And Burr made him unforgettable. Even after many years, reruns of Perry Mason continue to draw viewers and have an impact on people who want to be lawyers and artists. After Perry Mason ended, Burr continued to do well on TV. In 1967, he got a new lead part in Ironside as police consultant Robert T. Ironside, who is in a wheelchair. The show, which ran for 8 seasons, was the first to show a disabled lead character who was still smart and strong emotionally. Burr's performance was kind and respectful, which went against stereotypes and expanded the idea of what a TV hero could be. Because he cared so much about the job, he worked with disability supporters to make sure that people with disabilities were treated with respect and that the truth was told. Raymond Burr was known for more than just his work. He was also known for being kind and helping others. He gave money to many charities, including ones that worked to improve schooling, kids' health, and the environment. He owned an orchid business and a vineyard in Sonoma County, California. He was an avid gardener and vintner. Some parts of Burr's personal life were kept secret from the public because he cared a lot about privacy. His decades-long relationship with Robert Benz, a former actor and close friend with whom he had a strong bond, was also private. They built a life of quiet happiness and mutual respect by sharing their hobbies in horticulture, travel, and giving back to the community. Even though he had major health problems later in life, Burr kept working. In the 1980s and early 1990s, he played Perry Mason again in a successful run of made-for-TV movies. This added to the character's legacy and brought back old fans. He also kept appearing in films, TV shows, and public events, always keeping his friendly and professional air. Raymond Burr's short marriage to actor Isabella Ward was an interesting part of his early personal life that isn't talked about much. They met for the first time in 1943, a time when both of them were going through big changes. At the time, Ward was a young student at California's famous Pasadena Playhouse, which had helped many future stars get their start in the theater business. As someone who was already well known there, Burr was teaching and mentoring aspiring artists. Their first meeting set the stage for a relationship that would come back in 1947, several years later. Ward went back to California. At the time, he was working with a traveling theater group. She quickly turned her new friendship with Burr into a love relationship, and on January 10, 1948, they got married. The wedding happened just as Burr was getting ready to start work on the 1948 noir movie Pitfall, which would help him become even better known in Hollywood. Even though there was professional progress, the union itself didn't last long. That same year, Burr and Ward were both in a play at the Pasadena Playhouse that was based on the life of the French artist Paul Gauguin. This performance showed how much they both loved the theater, and for a moment, it looked like their shared love of art might bring them closer together. But soon enough, they had to face the truth about their home life. Burr and Ward moved into a basement room in a huge Hollywood home that Burr shared with his mother and grandparents after they got married. The unusual way they lived together, along with Burr's busy work schedule and family duties, probably put stress on their marriage. The relationship started to fall apart in just a few months. Ward finally went back to her home state of Delaware, where she was born, to get away from the stress of Hollywood and find comfort and normalcy. The time they spent apart turned into a lasting split. The marriage was over long before 1952, when the divorce was officially finalized. Neither Burr nor Ward ever got married again, and they both lived full lives after that, but they did so in different ways. Ward, on the other hand, later thought about their relationship with a mix of affection and realism, recognizing how hard it was to keep a marriage going in the fast-paced world of Hollywood. Years later, in 1960, Burr met the man who would become his best friend and stay with him for life. Robert Benedict was a fellow actor who worked with Burr on the TV show Perry Mason. Benedict was interested in the arts and had a quiet charm that seemed to go well with Burr's strong presence. Their connection was strong and instant, and it grew into a relationship that lasted more than 30 years. By 1963, Benz had decided to stop acting for good. This was at the same time that he became more involved in Burr's personal and business life. Benz stopped trying to make it as an actor and started working behind the scenes. He became a trusted production assistant on Perry Mason and then did the same thing for 21 of the very popular Perry Mason TV movies made in the 1980s and early 1990s. Burr and Benedict built a full and varied life together outside of Hollywood. One based on a shared love of gardening, business, and peaceful country life. They started a flower business that did very well and brought them both money and happiness. Because they both loved nature, they finally bought a beautiful piece of land in California's Dry Creek Valley and planted a vineyard there. The couple spent a lot of time learning how to make wine and running a farm, which made their life very different from the bright lights of Hollywood. Although they were deeply committed to each other and their friendship was well known among those close to them, it was never made public during Burr's lifetime because the entertainment business in the middle of the 20th century was very conservative and rarely forgiving. In any case, the link they had was clear and would last. While Burr was alive, Benedict was by his side through years of career success, personal loss, and health problems. Burr died in 1993. Burr left all of his property to Benvid's when he died. This showed how close they were and how much trust and love they had for each other. In the years after Burr's death, Benvid's paid tribute to him in a number of ways, some of which caused trouble. He changed the name of their private refuge in Dry Creek Valley to Raymond Burr Vineyards, which is now a business winery. According to some stories, Burr asked that the vineyard not be used as a public memorial because he wanted it to be a quiet memorial. Still, the Benvites wanted to honor Burr's memory by making a place where friends and wine lovers could visit that combined the actor's name with the couple's love of the land. The farm did well for many years before it was finally sold in 2017. It was the end of a very personal part of the lives of two men who had shared a lot but had to keep a lot of it secret during their own lives. Throughout his long Hollywood career, Raymond Burr kept up a respectable and professional public image. However, behind the scenes, he was known to have had strong feelings, sometimes touching on hostility, toward a few of his peers in the business. Because Burr was very private and kept his personal life and sexuality very secret during a time when homophobia was common in Hollywood, he often had problems with actors who either didn't respect him, threatened his career, or had personalities that didn't go with his. The way he acts, which is strict and often distant. One is Robert Young, who is best known for his work on Father Knows Best and Marcus Welby, M.D. Burr allegedly didn't like how condescending Young was on set and how he liked to take over conversations. Burr liked people who were humble and professional, and he thought Young's sense of self-importance and refusal to credit other artists' work were rude and annoying. In a private letter, Burr once called Young a man who believes his own press too much, which was a way of showing that he had a deep and long-held dislike for the man. 2. George Nader. In a strange way, Nader was also an actress, and the fact that they were both gay might have brought them together. But Burr saw Nader as a rival, especially in the middle of the 1950s, when both were trying to get strong male leads. It was said that Burr didn't like how famous Nader was becoming at Universal. The two were said to have had tense encounters at industry events, with Burr calling Nader a charm factor, who had no soul. 3. William Talman, who played Hamilton Berger, the district attorney on Perry Mason and Burr's co-star, had a problem with him. On screen, they were friendly and had great chemistry, but off-screen, Burr was said to have mistrust for Talman because of his wild lifestyle and history of scandals. During a police raid in 1960, Talman was arrested on charges of indecency. Burr, who was afraid of scandal and exposure, allegedly thought this was careless and dangerous for the whole production. 4. Charles Boyer. Early in his career, Burr worked with Br, and it was said that Burr couldn't stand the French actor's noble airs and theatrical airs. Burr, an actor who made it on his own after struggling with weight and typecasting, thought that Br looked down on American TV stars. It is said that Burr once said, "He walks through a room as if it were beneath him." That's not right. 5. Adam West. Burr didn't like artists who he thought were acting for fun or weren't serious. And West, who was famous for playing Batman in the 1960s in a campy way, was a perfect example of everything Burr didn't like about the way TV was going. He really liked playing in dramatic stories, and he is said to have laughed at West's fame, saying that TV wasn't about capes and catchphrases when I started. This is Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. Even though both actors worked for Warner Brothers, Burr allegedly thought that the studio treated Zimbalist better because he was the star of the FBI. Burr thought Zimbalist's success was too easy because he had been trying for years to get parts that meant something. Network politics and a lack of mutual respect made their partnership difficult. Burr is said to have said that Zimbalist was more image than substance. 7. John Forsythe. Most well known for roles in Dynasty and Charlie's Angels. Forsythe represented the smooth, slick image that Burr seemed to dislike. Some team members say that Burr didn't like how charismatic and friendly Forsythe was, seeing it as an attempt to trick them. It made Burr uncomfortable to be around actors who relied on charm over depth, and he thought that success depended more on connections and grooming than on real ability. In spite of those private and professional tensions, Burr remained outwardly courteous. However, those close to him, which include his longtime accomplice, Robert Benvitz, understood that Burr's animosities have been no longer fleeting. They were regularly rooted in betrayals, perceived slights, or clashes in values. For a man who needed to hide a lot of his life from public view, those he couldn't admire or trust had been no longer effortlessly forgiven and in no way forgotten. For the duration of the spring of 1993, while Raymond Burr was in the midst of filming his very last Perry Mason TV movie, a function that had become synonymous together with his name over many years, he started out to enjoy severe fitness troubles that quickly became impossible to disregard. The ones closest to Burr and the manufacturing group noticed subtle modifications in his physical condition and stamina, which raised worries about his nicely being. To begin with, the specific nature of his illness became not publicly disclosed, but it turned into clear to the ones round him that he becomes suffering. Burr had always been known for his expert willpower and resilience, frequently pushing through demanding situations to keep the high quality and integrity of his performances. However, this time, the health setbacks had been intense sufficient to impact his work. A spokesperson for Viacom, the corporation overseeing the Perry Mason initiatives at that point, issued an assertion to the media acknowledging Burr's illness. They cautiously suggested that his condition might be associated with a renal mobile carcinoma, an competitive and malignant shape of kidney cancer that Burr had gone through surgical treatment for earlier that 12 months in February. This revelation got here as a shock to fanatics and co-workers alike, as Burr had maintained a highly non-public life and had not extensively disclosed the seriousness of his medical state of affairs. Renal mobile carcinoma is understood for its capacity to be insidious, often last undetected till it has stepped forward drastically, making Burr's analysis in particular difficult. Following the initial surgical procedure to take away the kidney tumor, clinical opinions discovered an extra grim prognosis. Unfortunately, it became decided that the most cancers had metastasized, spreading beyond the kidney to Burr's liver. At this advanced stage, the cancer changed into deemed inoperable. That means that surgical intervention could no longer offer a curative alternative or meaningful manipulate of the ailment. This prognosis represented a devastating blow for Burr and those around him because the alternatives for treatment were restrained and the progression of the ailment posed a critical hazard to his existence. Notwithstanding the dire diagnosis, Raymond Burr faced his situation with incredible courage and charm. Understanding the restricted time he had left, Burr chose to spend his final months surrounded by way of near friends, family, and loved ones. In a poignant series of events, he hosted more than one goodbye events, intimate gatherings that allowed him to have fun existence, share recollections, and explicit gratitude to people who had supported him during his first-rate profession and private journey. Those farewell moments have been bittersweet, reflecting both the deep affection others had for him and the inevitability of his passing. Raymond Burr passed away peacefully on September 12, 1993 on the age of 76 at his ranch in Sonoma County close to Healdsburg, California. His home there was no longer just an area of residence but a sanctuary where he located solace in his final days, surrounded by using the herbal splendor of the vicinity he cherished. Burr's dying marked the stop of a generation for television and film, as he became not simplest an iconic actor who described felony drama via Perry Mason, but also a loved parent admired for his professionalism, humility, and kindness. His passing became mourned deeply via enthusiasts worldwide, colleagues, and the leisure enterprise at Big, cementing his legacy as one of the most enduring and respected actors of his era.